So the agricultural export price index, okay, aggregates the logarithmic prices of Paraguay's key export commodities, including soybeans, corn, wheat, and beef. Constructing a composite index rather than including individual commodity prices separately, the model captures the overall export price environment while avoiding multicollinearity and excessive noise. The interest rate differential is defined as the policy interest rate set by the Banco Central del Paraguay minus the effective federal funds rate in the United States. The variable captures the monetary and financial channel of exchange rate determination through capital flows, portfolio allocation, and expectations. The Brazilian exchange rate is included to capture regional spillover effects. Brazil is Paraguay's most important regional partner, and movements in the Brazilian real often transmit to Paraguay through trade competitiveness, financial linkages, and regional risk sentiments. The regression results indicate a very strong overall model fit. The R square is approximately 0.877, meaning that about 87.7% of the variation in the US dollar to Paraguayan guaraní exchange rate is explained by the included variables. The adjusted R square remains high at approximately 0.866 or 86.6%, confirming that the strong explanatory power is not driven by overfitting. The overall statistical significance of the model is confirmed by an F-statistic of approximately 76.2 and a corresponding significance F of 1.16 times 10 to the power of minus 14. So it is a 1.15 with 0.0 times 1.15 followed by 14 zeros, a very small number. This strongly rejects the null hypothesis that the explanatory variables are jointly insignificant. Turning to the individual coefficients, okay, the estimated coefficient on the logarithm of the US dollar to Brazilian exchange rate is approximately 0.29 and is highly statistically significant. This implies that a 1% depreciation of the Brazilian real is associated with approximately 0.29% depreciation of the Paraguayan guaraní, highlighting the importance of regional spillover effects. The interest rate differential also plays a central role. The estimated coefficient is approximately minus 0.0177 and is statistically significant at conventional levels. This result is consistent with standard economic theory. An increase in Paraguay's policy interest rate relative to the US rate is associated with an appreciation of the guaraní, reflecting capital inflow dynamics and monetary policy credibility. The agricultural export price index enters the regression with the expected stabilizing effect on the exchange rate. However, once monetary and regional variables are controlled for, its coefficient is not statistically significant at conventional levels. This does not imply that agriculture is unimportant for Paraguay, but rather that its influence may be more structural or operate over longer horizons compared to the dominant financial and regional channels captured in this specification. Before concluding, it is important to address an important component of Paraguay's external sector that is not included in the regression analysis: electricity exports. Paraguay is one of the world's largest exporters of hydroelectric power, primarily through the Itaipú and Yacyretá binacional hydroelectric projects shared with Brazil and Argentina. Revenues from these projects constitute a major and stable source of foreign exchange for the Paraguayan economy and play a crucial role in supporting the country's external position. Despite their macroeconomic importance, electricity exports are excluded from the regression model for methodological and conceptual reasons. Unlike agricultural commodities, electricity export prices are not determined in competitive international markets. Instead, they are governed by long-term binational treaties that establish cost-based pricing formulas, compensation schemes, and contractual payment arrangements with Brazil and Argentina. As a result, electricity export prices do not respond continuously to global supply and demand conditions and exhibit very limited short-term variation. Changes in electricity export revenues tend to occur through infrequent political negotiations, treaty revisions, or institutional adjustments rather than through market-driven price fluctuations. The objective of this regression analysis is to explain month-to-month movements in the US dollar to Paraguayan guaraní exchange rate using variables that reflect market-based shocks and high-frequency adjustments. Electricity exports, therefore, function as a structural and relatively stable source of foreign exchange rather than as a marginal driver of short-term exchange rate dynamics. For these reasons, electricity exports are intentionally excluded from the regression specification. This exclusion does not imply economic irrelevance. On the contrary, it reflects a clear analytical distinction between long-term structural determinants of external sustainability and short-run exchange rate movement, which are the focus of this empirical analysis. Taken together, the results indicate that Paraguay's exchange rate dynamics are primarily driven by regional spillovers from Brazil and interest rate differentials, while agricultural export prices and electricity revenues play complementary but structurally different roles. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this analysis useful, I invite you to follow the channel for future videos on applied macroeconomics, monetary policy, and exchange rate dynamics in emerging and developing economies. Thank you very much.